Welcome to the Land to Lots podcast, powered by Launch Development Finance Advisors. And now your host, Carter Froelich.
Hello, everybody. This is Carter Froelich, and welcome to the Land to Lots podcast. It's great to be before you again here today. And today we're going to be talking about what I believe is a very important topic. And this topic is important for a lot of different reasons. One of which, is that if we're purchasing land, we want to make sure we're making a good buy. Two, if we're selling land, we want to make sure that we're able to support our values on why we think the land should be priced the way it is. And third, we are getting a lot of comments right now from our home builder, land developer, investor clients, just saying that it's getting harder and harder and harder to pencil deals. I get it. There's a lot of challenges out there, but guess what? There's always been a lot of challenges in real estate, and somehow we always manage to move forward. I've been doing this for 40 years, and the same themes keep on coming up over and over and over again. So let's kick into the first episode related to the land residual analysis. So for those of you that may not know, I think I've mentioned this on other podcasts. I am a certified public accountant in the states of Arizona, California, and Texas. I also was an Arizona state certified real estate appraiser until I moved my office and forgot to tell the appraisal board, and they took away my license from me for not reporting my change of address. They didn't take away my knowledge, but they took away my license. But we are not, nor have we been doing appraisals for about 20 years. But I just want you to know that I have that background. I also went through the MAI process, passed the tests on 2 of the 3 levels, and then my license was pulled. I'm also a real estate salesperson in the state of Arizona. My license is currently hanging with Land Advisors out of Scottsdale. So just wanted to give you that as additional background as to my experience. But most importantly, I'm the managing principal of Launch Development Finance Advisors. And we are a transaction-based real estate consulting firm. We only work for the private sector. I've only been working for the private sector now for over 42 years. But at launch, our goal is to be a hero to the development community, and we're a hero by helping them finance infrastructure, reducing costs, mitigating risk, all with the goal of enhancing project profitability and returns. And so you say, great, Cart, that's wonderful. What does that have to do with the land residual analysis? Well, very shortly, and over the course of this series of podcasts, you're going to see how once we have an understanding of what the land residual analysis is, what the math is behind the land residual analysis, you will be able to reverse engineer and understand on how you can take your entrepreneurial skill sets and enhance land value. So, and here again, all the opinions I'm expressing are mine and mine solely. And I just want to share this information with the broader development community and as food for thought on how you can approach transactions to enhance value or look at a transaction and with a sober mind, look at what you could do in the existing market conditions to purchase that land, make some tweaks to the asset through going through the entitlement process, which we're going to talk about, and add value to that project and be able to reap a benefit when you sell it. So as part of what we do at Launch Development Finance Advisors, I'm just going to call it Launch going forward. But what we do at Launch is we have a proven process we've been using for 40 some odd years. It's called the launch sequence, where we break down each transaction into 3 separate components: planning, implementation, and management. Typically, that is planning the project implementing everything we need to get the project off the ground and financed, and then typically manage, meaning what are we doing to continually build infrastructure, issue bonds, and sell out the project as we move forward. So if you want greater information on what the launch sequence is, I'm not going to get into it, but I wrote a trilogy of books on the launch sequence, and I'll also post as part of this podcast our depiction of what the launch sequence is. The reason I mention the launch sequence is that when you look at our diagram of what the launch sequence is, you will see that all of the things we are doing ultimately will relate in a lot of thinking, planning, and documenting our transaction, which at the end of the day, my opinion, will lead to greater land value and project profitability. So I'm going to stop there, but let's get into what exactly is the land residual. Simply put, the definition of land residual is the maximum price that a developer can pay for land and still achieve their required return metrics. And that could be an IRR, that could be a multiplier, but it's whatever the developer is looking in terms of profiting from them taking the risks to purchase and develop this property. The land residual analysis is comprehensive. We really try to make sure that we're picking up all the costs included in the development of a project, and also the financing charges as well as profit, to make sure that we're being properly compensated for the risk we're taking on. In a perfect world, all of our assumptions are backed up by some sort of document, in my world anyway, that's recorded, it's published, it's certified. In other words, we know it's real, and or it's an opinion of a third-party expert. And you'll see why that becomes so much important, especially when we're attempting to entitle land and then sell it to a third party that will either be developing it as a master developer, a joint venture partner, or a builder may be taking the property. The one of the biggest examples, and I'm going to jump into this comprehensive nature, because if we are going to be looking at putting forth our best case scenario to a potential buyer, it is important that when we're showing them our numbers, quote unquote, that they're confident that we have de-risked the transaction. So what does that mean? In my prior life I was with an accounting firm by the name of Kenneth Leventhal in Newport Beach, California. In the late 80s, we had a partnership that came to us and said, hey guys, we own this last citrus grove in the Inland Empire. We want to, in a community in the Inland Empire, I should say, we want to entitle this property and we want to sell it. So we would like you guys to come in and help us. So what we did is we hired a project manager from the Irvine company that came over to work for this partnership. We did market studies as part of the planning process. It was really a market-driven land use plan that the project manager put together based on what we were projecting in terms of what that market would need. We worked with him to negotiate the development agreement. As part of that, we also created a community facilities district. We formed the district. We recorded, we put together a rate and method of apportionment. As part of our development agreement, we looked in and we set up reimbursement mechanisms with other benefiting landowners. We calculated development impact fee credits. I mean, we went in and did a lot of work. As part of the work we did, and when we were getting ready to sell the property, obviously all of these recorded documents were included in a war room, which was a real war room. But the other thing we did as part of this is we put together a Excel. At this point, it was Lotus 123, but we put together a Lotus 123 spreadsheet, and it included our market analyses, where we had put together what we had anticipated, or what we had estimated the price and pace of the lot sales, home sales to be. We had all of our stamp cost estimates as a certain point in time for the project, offsite, onsite, as well as in-tract infrastructure. We knew what the CFD was. So we put together a cash flow analysis that acted as the land residual analysis, meaning we showed the total revenue, showed sales commissions, backed out the costs, backed out financing, had a developer profit uh, line, and then we showed net cash flow. And as part of our package, we put all of this together and gave it to builders and investors and developers in the Orange County market and said, knock yourself out, guys. Here's all the information. It's in our war room at Kenneth Leventhal's office. It literally was a war room. You had to come to our office to see the files of all of this, of all the documents. And we gave them on a disk the Excel and said, you can manipulate the price, the pace, you can play around with these costs, but be advised, we have stamp cost estimates based off of approved infrastructure plans. We have a development agreement with the city. We have all these reimbursement agreements. We have development impact fee credits that we can pass on. And by the way, we have a CFD. And over time, you're going to be able to issue bonds for $250 million. And whatever you change, you cannot change the fact that we just created $250 million for you guys. And that we want to get paid for our hard work. So as a result of putting all of this together, we were actually able, and because it was supported, and this is going to be key throughout my discussion, because it was supported and backed up, and we provided everything, we opened the kimono and said, come in, look at everything. Yeah, and I know this isn't new, everybody does it, but the key was that we were selling this land under a request, for proposals, but we gave everybody this model and they could all run their analyses. We showed them how to use it based on this model. And as a result of this, we ended up selling the property for 20% more than what even the partnership thought they were going to be able to get. So it was a huge, huge success. And this is just a long-winded way of discussing what I think is important in putting together a comprehensive analysis and backing that up. As a CPA, we tick and we tie things. And I did like being a CPA. I did it for 2 years and 2 months too long. But the one thing that it did teach me that had served me so well is that everything is backed up by a recorded document, a published document, a recorded document, a signed document, a notarized document, a stamped document, meaning it is real. And it is something that we just didn't make up. We really it went to a lot of lengths to prepare the transaction, the estimates, the agreements that you can take to the bank. Number 3, the other reason we should look at a land residual analysis is that it's flexible, meaning it adapts to different property types, takes into account market cycles, and here again, we can talk about assumptions, but it also takes into account the complexities of the project. Every project's different, and we need to be able, to the best of our abilities, to model out those complexities. And It also allows the developer then to run different scenarios, what if scenarios, with changing different assumptions, best case, optimistic case, most likely case, etc. Number four, it gives a developer a clear, data-driven answer to what can I pay for the land. And as a result of this, you have a clear way of looking at this data and deciding whether this is a project that's going to provide you with the desired profit. And so it's going to lead you to better use of your time, better use of negotiations. You're going to see what really moves the needle and what doesn't, and allow you to make better investment decisions and hopefully receive the best outcomes possible. Next, it also lets you flag projects that aren't going to work for you, that aren't viable. So you can pivot or you can renegotiate, but it allows developers to quickly reassess land values as costs and sales prices or regulatory environments change. And it's really an important analysis in very dynamic or uncertain markets. The next item is it gives partners and or lenders a lot of confidence that you have spent a lot of time looking at the project and coming up with a rational price. Because if you decide to share the land residual with your partners, with your investors, with your lenders, they're going to see your assumptions. They're also going to see your costs, your absorptions, everything that goes into the land residual, which we're going to be getting into in much more detail. And here again, if they ask you where that information is coming from, hopefully you will be able to point to a folder in electronic war room and say, we got it from XYZ engineer group. It's recorded in our development agreement or our annexation agreement with the city. Yeah, it's the district financing agreement. Here's a copy of it. You turn to this page, you'll see where we have got our assumptions. And last but not least, the land residual analysis accurately reflects project-specific factors. And unlike other methods of valuation solely based on comparable sales or some sort of back of the envelope income projections and costs, this method really, if you do the work, will get into the unique characteristics, costs, and revenue streams of your proposed development, resulting in a more tailored and accurate estimate of value of what you can actually pay for the property, or alternatively, what you can offer that property for sale. So with that, I'm going to stop with this episode of the Land to Lots podcast, and we'll be continuing to get into the details of the land residual analysis on future podcasts. If you find this podcast interesting and would like to share it with your team, I really encourage you to do that. Also, I encourage you to sign up for the Land to Lots podcast wherever you may get your podcast. Thank you, and look forward to talking with you shortly.
You have been listening to the Land to Lots podcast with Carter Froelich. Follow us wherever you find your podcast to never miss a new episode.